Hello, good morning. So, the theme of this year's annual conference of the Nigerian Society of Engineers Ibadan branch is towards revamping the Nigerian infrastructure development in the post COVID 19 era. And so, when you look at a picture like this, which is the crude oil pipeline in Nigeria network, what comes to your mind? The backbone of our country's economy, right? The most important infrastructure in Nigeria. Okay, and when you look at these other ones, what do you think? Oh, these are telecommunication masts. Okay, these are power systems that we use in Nigeria for national grid. These are railways we are now getting right at the end of the day, and we hope it lasts. These are roads, clean roads that we hope can be used for business, for tourism, and also to help move cargo from one end to the other. These are infrastructure we cannot joke with. They are the backbone of the country's economy, right? But what do they all have in common? They need to be secured. To be developed, you need to secure them. And so I say to you that a nation can only thrive where there is peace. And it's only a matter of time that we will realize that the greatest infrastructure is the security architecture. Thank you. My name is Dr. Olusola Ayoola, and I'm the founder of Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Nigeria. I'll be speaking to you about untapped potentials of smart technology in combating banditry. I can speak on this because I've been involved as the founder of RAIN in training a number of youths, children, adults on robotics and AI as they apply to medical, entertainment, security, home automation, industrial automation. But today, let's talk about banditry and kidnappings in Nigeria. I'm sure we are all aware that banditry and kidnappings have been ongoing in Nigeria for quite a while, especially in the southern part, the southwest part. We've been having kidnappings along the uh, Ondo Akure highway. We've also been having banditry in the north, cattle rustling. Of course, we have the Boko Haram, which seems to be perennial now, and so on. Okay, so these have severe implications on the economy. Investors would not come, infrastructure would therefore not last. Because if you don't have the money to maintain them, if you don't have the foreign exchange coming in, you cannot, in all sense of seriousness, maintain this infrastructure. And now, apart from that, these crimes do not only end at kidnapping human beings or making the roads unsafe, it's also affecting the railways. It's come to a point where helicopters may now have to start following the trains because of the insecurity. You don't want vandalization of all of these things because when these things are vandalized, people die, the whole idea of the infrastructure collapses. We've had cases of the telecommunication mast being vandalized or the national grid being vandalized. And these are all problems we cannot continue with in the post COVID 19 era, so we have to be ready. Right, it got to a point that in October 2019, the Nigerian military decided to deploy two very sophisticated drones, the latest in the Phantom series, Phantom DJI 5 drones, to tackle kidnappings around Ondo State and Ekiti State. Right. This particular drone is so good that it can travel you can control it remotely over a radius of 7 kilometers. That is awesome because that means you can send it into a thick forest to check out an area while you're controlling it remotely 7 kilometers away. Of course, the downside is that it can only last 31 minutes in air before charging again, but at least that's something that the operators are aware of and can handle. But what are the challenges? The challenges are that criminals take advantage of the thick forest in these southwestern states. And when criminals are in the thick forest, the canopies of the trees in these forested areas are not, make the areas not only to be inaccessible to ground forces, but also to be invincible to the drone cameras. So you have cameras at the top trying to check what's going on in the forest, but with the canopies, you can't see the actual activities. Drones make up so much noise, and so For you to even spy on the activities of these people, you need to fly the drone high enough so that the noise is limited. But when you do that, you affect the quality of the picture, of the video you're trying to even analyze. And these challenges have to be dealt with if we must keep tracking and monitoring the activities of bandits and kidnappers in the forested areas. It's even going to get worse now that we are entering the post COVID-19 era where the economy is opening again, but we are left with two baskets of gifts from COVID. One of them is a basket containing unemployment, recession, and increased crime. We all know that because businesses have been shut down, many people have lost their jobs, and it's going to take a while for them to regain their jobs. Not only that, the kind of skills that employers are looking for is now a bit different, so most people are going to have to be unemployed until they are retrained. But then, this is going to create what we call economic recession, and there's also going to be increased crime, and we need to fix that. Another thing that the post COVID 19 era brings to us is the increased use of the internet. Everybody now is able to do virtual meetings, virtual conferences, virtual classes, making everyone tech savvy, kind of. Now you have technological advancement as well, where everyone now says, okay, we need to have a robot. We need to have a robot in the airport. We need to have a way of checking temperature without actually touching them. Okay, things are coming up. Technology is bringing a lot of innovations. Also, we are now beginning to have more efficient systems where companies are saying, you know what, we don't need too many staff. Just few of you can come to work today. We can deal with that. Dropping the cost of running a business, but at the same time creating unemployment. Now, there are many things that can be done to solve the problem of crime by increasing security. One of them for against kidnappings and banditry is to use an intelligent car tracking system which allows you, rather than the passive car trackers we use, these ones can know when a car is not supposed to be stagnant in a particular abandoned area, and then you can send the signal to the necessary authority. So we're talking about car trackers that can easily decide that, well, for this car to be right in the middle of the road, that means something has happened. Wireless perimeter fencing, which is what we are doing at RAIN, is to secure a neighborhood, but also to secure the police or the army when they are in the war front. Okay, now what this wireless perimeter does is that it provides an invisible fence such that if anyone crosses through, you can be tasered, you can be lasered, or you can be, the owner can be alerted. We have laser-powered anti-chase unit for cars. If you are being chased and you have no weapon, but the car behind you has a weapon, you still have an advantage if you are ahead of them by firing a laser power, a very high laser power to shatter their windscreen. That gives you enough time to escape. Stealth body tracker, very important. It may be unconventional, but that's something we do to help people to track their children or their parents or their old loved ones in a way that the criminals cannot detect. Finally, cash source tracking. When cash is paid, a device can be used to check. So every bank tracks the money going out of their office. Every other bank tracks which money is coming in. So as the notes are entering, we should know the history of these notes, so we can check if it's come out of the victim who was kidnapped, and if it's in the area, if it's been spent in the area of the kidnappers. So that way we can easily know when things are going wrong. With the use of AI, we can even make this a lot better. Now, but the proposed technology the proposed solution for this issue of banditry here being proposed by me is the atmospheric CO2 gas emission surveillance. I believe if you can forego the aspect of checking pictures and focus on observing the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere around these forested areas or within the state, you can determine where there usually should be no human activities, and yet there is. By man's very nature, we are bound to cause CO2 emission. And so, even under the canopies, with a drone positioned high above the canopy of forested areas, we can still assess the CO2 emission to determine how much activities are going on. Right, it got to a point that in October 2019, the Nigerian military decided to deploy two very sophisticated drones, the latest in the Phantom series, Phantom DJI-5 drones, to tackle kidnappings around Ondo State and Ekiti State. Right, this particular drone is so good that it can travel you can control it remotely over a radius of 7 kilometers. That is awesome, because that means you can send it into a thick forest to check out an area while you're controlling it remotely 7 kilometers away. Of course, the downside is that it can only last 31 minutes in air before charging again, but at least that's something that the operators are aware of and can handle. But what are the even if the drone flies a bit low and they try to run away or hide under a cave, the CO2 that they have been emitting cannot hide, and it's something that can be studied. Here is a graph, well, a picture, a pictogram showing you the distribution of CO2 as at 2007 across the world. Now, this is not exactly similar to what we are going to be doing in forested areas, but it's showing you that we do have levels of carbon emission, which shows how much activity is being carried out, either manufacturing, motoring, human being breathing, and also the aspect of fossil fuel burning. So look at this. You can see that in Africa, in some parts of the parts of Africa that are not too developed, the CO2 emission is low, which is good for greenhouse effect and all of that, global warming. But then it also tells you that there is not much activity going on there. And compared to the Europe and United States of America and some aspects of some parts of Africa, you can see there is so much activity of carbon emission going on there. Now, if we can do this kind of map for a forested area, we can see where human beings are in a quiet, oxygenated forest of the southwest. In conclusion, atmospheric CO2 increases with increased human activities such as breathing, burning of fossil fuels such as cooking and transportation. With the deployment of AI machine learning models, the relationship can be established between the degree of human activities and the altitude of the detectors which we are using for carbon emission, which is mounted on a drone, the geospatial distribution of carbon emission ratings within a forested area, and the level of carbon emission being recorded. If we can determine the relationship, we can always predict based on these emissions in a forested area the activities and the hideouts of criminal elements such as bandits and kidnappers. There is a need to further improve accuracy and reliability of our element for sensing carbon emission so that we can pinpoint this right. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll be taking questions now.